I see Conan as a very heroic character, and he's a perfect hero because he's not all perfect. So people can relate to him, because he makes mistakes. He is bad in some ways. He's not like a Superman that is goody-goody all the way through the movie.
Conan the Barbarian was one of the most famous fantasy films of the 1980s. It was based on a pulp novel hero. He was unpredictable and violent, but fought in the name of what he felt was right. The film also made Arnold Schwarzenegger an international superstar. Keep watching to learn about the biggest secrets and bloopers from Conan the Barbarian. The film was inspired by several sources. The script for Conan was inspired by a grouping of stories by original Conan creator Robert E. Howard. It was also inspired by other stories that came later, like L. Sprague de Camp and Lynn Carter's The Thing in the Crypt. Writer-director John Milius was obsessed with Japanese culture. He imbued the film with elements of samurai epics and Japanese ghost stories. One of his favorite films was Kawaidan, an anthology horror film by Masaki Kobayashi. He drew inspiration from it while rewriting and designing the world of Conan. Fantasy artist Frank Frazetta was also a major influence. Many of the images in the film are based directly on his paintings. Production designer Ron Cobb also drew from several inspirations. They included Quetzalcoatl and Egyptian symbols and Celtic and Nordic architecture. Ridley Scott turned it down. Oliver Stone wrote the first draft of the Conan script. He wanted to direct it but didn't get the green light. He was also considered as a duo with special effects man Joe Alves, but that also didn't come to be. Oliver and the producers then watched Alien and were impressed by Ridley Scott's work. They offered him the director's chair, but he turned it down. The chair didn't get filled until producer Dino De Laurentiis offered it to John Milius, writer of the Dirty Harry films. He reportedly knew nothing about Conan the Barbarian, but agreed because he had always wanted to do a Viking movie. Other actors considered. Arnold wasn't the first pick for the title role. They considered other rugged men like Charles Bronson and Sylvester Stallone. That all changed when two producers saw Pumping Iron, the Arnold-focused bodybuilding film. It made them realize he was perfect for the character. Legendary critic Roger Ebert later agreed, saying, quote, "The movie's casting is ideal. Arnold Schwarzenegger is inevitably cast as Conan and Sandahl Bergman as Valeria. Physically, they look like the artist's conceptions of themselves." The cast trained extensively. Arnold had to undergo a rigorous training program to fit into the role. He said,
For competition, I used to train 4 hours a day, but since I'm not competing anymore, for this film, for instance, I'm training with weights 1 hour a day. I run a half hour a day. We do almost every day sword practice. We do all kinds of other physical activities, to get ready for the next scenes for the next day and so on. So I think it's now altogether maybe 2.5, 3 hours of physical fitness training, but weight training only 1 hour now.
He also wasn't just working on making his muscles look perfect. He spent time growing out his completely natural, flowing locks. The movie even got Arnold back into professional bodybuilding. He said,
I was tired of competition bodybuilding. I won everything. I won for 13 years the world championships in bodybuilding. So there was no more challenge for me really there. So I thought of getting into something different that will create a lot of challenge for me.
The training got him back into shape. He decided to enter the contest again in 1980 and won again. Cheryl also went through rigorous training as well. She said,
Arnold and Jerry Lopez and myself, we all three did train. I trained 3 months for the film and learned kendo. We would train like 3 days a week, maybe 2.5 hours.
Conan resembles another character. Are there any Robert E. Howard fans who've been clamoring for a Kull the Conqueror film? They kind of got one in Conan the Barbarian. Kull is a more fleshed-out character, so it's no wonder that much of his personality got put into the movie's hero. The most notable details include his upbringing as a slave and his nemesis, Tulsa Doom, serving as the villain. Valeria is also Conan's love interest in the film, even though Pirate Queen Bellet is considered the love of his life in the original novels. John admitted he chose her because he wanted a Valkyrie-like character in his Viking-like film. The original story for Conan was completely different from what we got. The first draft was written by Oliver Stone. He turned it from a medieval fantasy to a post-apocalyptic future. He was fascinated with genetics and cloning, so he had Conan fighting for survival against mutated humans after a nuclear disaster. The script generated enough interest to get the film going, but it was scrapped for a more faithful adaptation. John Milius took it on next. He wanted it to be a trilogy with a sword metaphor. The first was about the strength of the sword, the second about how to wield it, and the third about the consequences it can create. John was only involved with the first Conan movie, so his plans went unrealized. Conan is silent for the first 24 minutes. Conan the Barbarian is a character of few words. The original intention was to have him narrate the story. That role was given over to Japanese-American actor Mako, whose accent was easier to understand. Conan doesn't actually say anything until the first 24 minutes of the film, but it's one of the most quotable lines. A Mongol general asks Conan, "What is best in life?" He responds, "To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women." Goofs and Bloopers. The camouflage on the characters wasn't always consistent. The body paint on the warriors during the battle at the orgy alternates between fresh and dull. The main trio's war paint is also inconsistent. The props change as well. When the princess is changed to the Rock, the clasps around her wrist don't maintain their shape. She could have easily slipped out no matter what their shape was. There are times when the crew or elements used to keep the actors safe are visible. Valeria has a visible safety line when she's getting into the top of the tower. A director stands right next to Tulsa Doom, waving the actor in the right direction. One of the most notable errors happens at the very end of the movie. Text crawls across the screen as the narrator is speaking. It reads, "But that is another story," even though he says, "This story shall also be told." Injuries. Injuries are almost inevitable in such an action-packed film. Sandahl Bergman's finger nearly got cut off during a fight scene. John allegedly wasn't much help. He shouted, "Valeria would never let that happen." Arnold hurt himself by falling down rocks while running from angry dogs. He also injured his knee when he was thrown from a horse. It was during the last few weeks of shooting, and he managed to power through. The stuntmen didn't escape injury either. Terry Leonard was dropped in a well by Valeria in the Tower of Set. He fell into a pile of empty cardboard boxes. That didn't fully break his fall, and he suffered a broken leg. Excessive violence against people and animals. The original cut was deemed too violent by producer Dino De Laurentiis. Several scenes were cut or reshot. One was the death of Conan's mother. It was originally twice as bloody and violent. Some of the scenes were spliced back in for home video releases, but many are now lost to time. Conan was also criticized by animal rights activists for its use of live animals. The American Humane Association oversaw their treatment and observed issues. The dogs that Conan runs from were genuinely vicious, but one was kicked on set. Other issues included horses being tipped over and the now infamous scene of Arnold punching a camel in the face. The Conan franchise that never was. Conan the Barbarian was still successful. Like almost any successful film, there were plans to turn it into a franchise. Arnold was sure they'd get at least one more movie, saying,
"I think we can see the definite sequel because it's considered an extremely successful film. Wherever it opened successfully. So I'm looking forward to doing a second movie."
4 sequels were planned, but only one happened, 1984's Conan the Destroyer. That film faced criticism due to its family-friendly tone, poor writing, and lack of action. It was so bad, it made Arnold swear off doing sequels ever again until Terminator 2. Red Sonja was set in the Conan universe, but it starred a different character. It was even worse and failed to launch a franchise. There was a full reboot in 2011. Jason Momoa played the title character and said he was a big fan of the character despite not being able to watch the film growing up. He also said,
"It's amazing that 30 years went by and we haven't told any of these 8 decades of different types of stories in a world where Spider-Man and Batman are done by how many countless different types of people, and it's like, wow."
Arnold kept his Conan sword. Conan had a major cultural impact, even if it didn't create a franchise. One of the people it affected the most, of course, was Arnold. The Warrior's famous swords reportedly cost $10,000 and weighed almost 11 pounds each. Using them for filming all day not only affected his body, it gave him an emotional attachment to them. Arnold kept one of the swords. He proudly displayed it over his desk when he served as governor of California years later. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite moment in Conan the Barbarian? Let us know in the comments section below.